Morning. Another absolutely crisp but magic Victorian Melbourne day. And I'm a little bit torn. I was thinking, right, got myself a little speech all around the hypocrisy of the woke mind virus. How we've got, on one hand, we celebrate gang culture and dropping it while it's hot and pocket like it's hot and all this nonsense. Good luck. Great. I'm all for Snoop Dogs and entertainers. 100%. Awesome. But I'm not all for woke mind virus nonsense that has in effect led to our bureaucracies filled with a level of incompetence and mismanagement, which then leads to corruption that a lot of Western worlds have never seen before. But this is really very relevant because for 10 years minimum, due to my turning left at the fork of the road instead of right, I stumbled into being in the belly of the beast, in the belly of government mismanagement. And aside the IBAC investigation where I was asked to testify against a prison officer and all this business that led me to the little anti-corruption unit, the reality was they have in Victoria, be it the police, the prisons, Jacinta Allen, or all of them, when I was like a threat, being that I was a witness against, as I was commonly told, one of their own, what I learnt is they have a little division, little unit, again, whoever it may be, it might be a division of the police, Jacinta's little puppets there, who knows. But there was a little unit that was not worried about any petty crimes they may have seen, not worried about a quarter pound of methamphetamine that they may have seen, not worried about huge trafficable quantities of what they call juice, GHB, not worried about ounces of methamphetamine and heroin that they were exposed to, but they were worried and they were tasked with making the headaches go away, trying to silence the critics. I kid you not. Which, so what? Who cares? Not so what now. Now you have Victorians literally living in fear. Good, just everyday Victorians, just decent, normal people, pharmacists, nurses, just normal everyday people literally living in fear, and it is directly related to the same type of situation I was exposed to. The same people that are tasked with ensuring that the Victorian public don't have to deal with stuff like that, don't have to live in fear, that we don't have organised crime infiltrating our infrastructure projects, that we haven't got, squillion-dollar blowouts because organised criminals have infiltrated our government departments on every level, be it the private prisons, be it I won't say the government prisons because they were just, anyway, but these people are tasked with preventing this. Now, the same people that went after me, this is what makes it sickening, to the back teeth sickening. The same people that went after me in the most disturbing ways, and I mean disturbing as in weaponized sex offences, using drug-addicted women in the most degrading, like pulling the strings like puppet masters, like very twisted, controlling, disturbing behaviours. And in at least one situation, bribing, coercing with the returned custody of the toddler that the drug addicted mess this person's life was still in when they returned the custody of the toddler. She was well and truly still a drug addicted mess, generational drug addicted mess. So, and that's not her fault. Don't misread that as me trying to blame. No way. There's people, it is all linked. The same people that are meant to be protecting Victoria from this from happening, they couldn't manage to get a ride. They couldn't manage to get a ride in a Dodgem car in show week. They couldn't manage, literally. They could not organise, and you used to see it. You used to see things like, I can remember walking around Ravenhall prison. The jewel in the eye we'd hear like, oh, you know, this place has got more cameras than inmates. It's got the tech guru. It's got more clinicians than prison officers. I jokingly called it the Ravenhall effect. What it ended up being was the most ridiculous waste of resources ever. You had all this money being spent on teaching inmates that there's a thing called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that before any human has any hope of even contemplating positive behaviour change, that certain things have to be put in place. And one of them is housing, shelter, air, food. That's right down the bottom. The first thing you need is just a warm, safe place so you don't have to stress. Then after that, once you've got that achieved, food, air, water, shelter, safe shelter, then you can start going, okay, you know what, this bloody drug addiction I picked up, I've got to do something about this. I can't keep living like this. But until you've got those things in place, yet here they are with this tokenism nonsense. This is what led to 10 years of taxpayer money going after me, was this tokenistic nonsense. I'm talking about like just ridiculous paths, you know, that don't work, join in circle, just nonsense. But worse than that, all this tech gadgetry led to lower ranked prison officers completely illegally. It's not, the intercom system in a prison system is not designed so that like a 23-year-old girl can, look, I've never heard blokes talking like this, and just tune in. That's not what an intercom system is used for, and it's legislated. It's in the commissioner's requirements. It's in how you manage a prison. This is how toxic and mismanaged the Victorian system got, as one of many, many, many examples, which you can read about in a book I wrote called A Very Broken System. Anyway, so this led to disturbingly lower ranked, relatively untrained prison officers just sitting there abusing this fancy new surveillance equipment. It led to inmates being able to access internet. It was the most mismanaged shambles that I've ever experienced. So I commented on that. And what I got was about 10 or 11 years of being stalked, harassed, sex offended. Now, the reason I keep bunging on about this is A, so that people will hear it. There's that aspect. But I'll tell you what, because nothing has happened. Nobody has been held for account for the type of mismanagement and arrogance that saw a system letting drug dealers out who were conning their way out. They would get literally the arrogant high-ranking police that were stalking and spending, misappropriating your money to go after me for daring to challenge them. For 15 plus years, this was a well-known secret for those in the know, and it only got exposed by another bikie testifying against a bikie. So it wasn't even exposed by the system. Don't misconstrue it like, oh yeah, but at least they found it out and did something. No, not even. They would never have done anything about it if it wasn't for the bikie testifying against another bikie. And that was high-ranking, very arrogant, because it's not the brave frontline staff ever. It's the tainted dinosaurs at the top that do all the damage. And in this case, this one example, these high-ranking, very, very arrogant, too arrogant to follow process and procedure type of police officers were literally in a system that has no deal system. We don't have a deal system. I've said this before and I'll say it again. This type of arrogance and incompetence that I'm referring to, and not too arrogant to follow the processes, we're the system. We don't have to, what do you mean, Commissioner's requirements? We do what we want. Literally with that type of, that ego-driven dinosaur nonsense. High-ranking arrogant police in corrupt Victoria were conned. What was happening is high-ranking meth importers, drug dealers were getting arrested. And then what they would do is they would arrange their own gun imports. Some would even get the guns to preempt them getting arrested, and try, in much like, those third world countries where you hear about bribing officers. Well, they would just do it in this way. They would go, look, hey, let me go and I'll give you 20 guns. They'd had the guns stooked it was that toxic, it was that damaged. They had the guns stooked literally as a get out of jail free card. That is how important it is for our systems to not get arrogant, not get corrupted, because it is directly responsible for what is happening in Victoria today. Youth crime, drugs through the roof, crime through the roof, people living in fear. Sorry, not sorry. It has to stop, and people need to be held to account. People in Daniel Andrews' government need to be held to account. And I'm not just talking about, make Patton stand down, the puppet, or no chance. There was criminality at the highest magnitude by people who are still employed. People who are still employed, and they want to follow anybody who dares question them around. And dog, look at this dog. How dare he question us? Seriously. People have died because of this type of arrogance and mismanagement, and often outright corruption. Morning. Have a great day, everyone.